Okay, let's begin with your doubts. Let's begin with your doubts. Okay, I don't think you have any of the doubts. So let's proceed with SA-700. We have already done till understanding how do you post for auditor's opinion. Right. Come to page number 152. Page 152. Okay. Page number 152. Let's go on. Basis of opinion. Right. Before that, let's quickly revise whatever we have done. We began with SA-700. What does the standard deal with? So remember, SA-700 deals with two things. First, auditor's responsibility to form opinion on the financial statements. किसकी responsibility है? Auditor की. क्या responsibility है? To form an opinion on the financial statements. And second, it also describes two things: form and content of the auditor's report issued as a result of audit of financial statements. There are two objectives of SA-700. The first objective is to form an opinion on the financial statements based on evaluation from the conclusions drawn. From where do you draw conclusions? From the audit evidence obtained. And second, to express that opinion clearly through a written audit report. So it should be a written audit report. It cannot be an oral audit report. After that, what are the considerations that are required for an auditor to form an opinion? So first we understood two things. The first thing is that auditor has to form an opinion that the financial statements are prepared in accordance with the applicable FRF. How can you do that? You have to obtain sufficient and you have to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement. So if the financial statements are free from material misstatement, then you can say that the books of accounts are prepared in accordance with the applicable FRF. However, for doing this, you have to follow 9 things, right? Very important 9 things. The first point says the financial statement disclose the significant accounting policies that are selected and applied. The second point talks about this accounting policies selected and applied are similar to, means they are consistent with the applicable FRF. The accounting estimates that are made are reasonable. Fourth point, the financial statements provide adequate disclosure so that the users of financial statements understand all the material transactions and events. And then you have the terminology used in the financial statements, especially in the title of the financial statements, are appropriate. Then we did that the financial statement should be 4 things: reliable, relevant, understandable, and comparable. Then we went to the 7th point, which says that the financial statement should be prepared as per the applicable FRF. The auditor must obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence so as to reduce the audit risk to an acceptably low level. And then you have the auditor should conclude that there are no uncorrected misstatements in the financial statements, which means if there are any uncorrected misstatements, they should not be material. After that, we came to a question as to what is the meaning of unmodified opinion. So when the financial statements are prepared, as per the applicable financial reporting framework, then you can say that there are no misstatements in the financial statements, and the financial statements are given unmodified opinion. Okay, then you have what are the basic elements of the auditor's report, which we saw. The first is the title. So every audit report should have an appropriate title. Second, we saw the addressee, means the audit report should be addressed to someone. It is usually addressed to the person who appoints the auditor. Third is the auditor's opinion, where you have to mention some 4 5 points that are given. I'll explain each point to you once again. It says you will first identify the entity whose financial statements are being audited. You will disclose the fact that the financial statements are audited. Third, you will show the title of each financial statement that you're auditing, such as balance sheet, P&L, and cash flow statement, statement of equity of changes. You will also give a reference of the notes to accounts, including summary of significant accounting policies that you have followed. Whenever you express an unmodified opinion, you have to use the words that the financial statements in all material respects comply with the applicable financial reporting framework, or you can also mention the word saying that the financial statements give a true and fair view in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Are you understanding? This is what we have seen till now. Right now, I have two doubts that someone has asked me. I'll just quickly go through those doubts, and then we proceed. One doubt is point number 12 on page number 388 of your institute study material. I'm just reading that point, then I'll explain it to you. So please pay attention on what I'm reading. The point says the auditor shall evaluate whether the financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with the requirements of the applicable FRF. This evaluation shall include the consideration of qualitative aspects of the entity's accounting practices, including indicators of the bias of possible bias of management judgment. So this is a point which I've already explained to you. We did it again today during revision, and I'm again explaining it to you. The auditor has to see whether we are following the applicable FRF. First point that this says. Second, it says the auditor should ensure that there is no bias. Right? What is the meaning of bias? That the management has made wrong decisions, that the management has not made neutral decisions, it has made biased decisions. Biased decisions in what? In accounting judgments. What is the meaning of accounting judgments? Accounting judgments means matters that require judgments, matters that require estimates. So, say for example, if BDR only 4% is required, but the management provides 10%, then it is biased because the management has provided wrong accounting judgments. So, the auditor has to be very careful with this, and he has to ensure that there is no management bias while preparing the financial statements. Right? That was the first doubt that has been asked to me. Moving to the second doubt that has been asked. It says, for the purposes of this essay, general purpose financial statements means financial statements prepared in accordance with the general purpose framework. Then you have general purpose framework, the financial reporting framework designed to meet the common financial needs of wide range of users. And then you have unmodified opinion. So basically in point number 7 you have 3 points. One, it says general purpose financial statements. So general purpose financial statements means financial statements which are made in accordance with a framework. So generally a financial statement will comprise of balance sheet, P&L, and cash flow statement. Plus you will also have notes to accounts. Right, so these are general purpose financial statements. Generally these are used. Then the next point that has been asked over here is general purpose framework. So basically you have to report that framework which majority of the shareholders are looking for it. So say for example majority of the shareholders are looking for what is the gross profit ratio of the organization, so that becomes a general purpose framework. So these are all the various definitions that have been given in the standard on auditing. Right, okay, this much we have done, and one doubt that was asked to me, that is also solved. So now come to page number 152. Let's continue from page number 152. ओके, दे हैव गिवन यू बेसिस ऑफ ओपिनियन, मतलब अगर आपने ऑडिट ओपिनियन दे दिया है तो वो ऑडिट ओपिनियन का क्या बेस है, किस बेसिस पे आपने वो ऑडिट ओपिनियन दिया है, इज योर नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ, which says the auditor's report shall include a section directly following the opinion section। मतलब ऑडिटर्स ओपिनियन के सेक्शन के तुरंत बाद क्या आना चाहिए, बेसिस ऑफ ओपिनियन सेक्शन, ताकि आप समझा सको कि ऊपर जो मैंने ओपिनियन दिया है उसका क्या बेस है, किस बेसिस पे मैंने वो ऑडिट ओपिनियन दिया है। With the heading basis of opinion that state that the audit was conducted in accordance with standards on auditing। So the first point that you will mention that is that we have followed the standards on auditing. We have followed the standards on auditing. That's the first point that you will explain in the basis of opinion. Second, you will refer to the section of the auditor's report that describes the auditor's responsibility. So we have already seen over there that there is something known as management's responsibility and something known as auditor's responsibility. You will draw the attention towards the auditor's responsibility, that these were our responsibility while conducting the audit of financial statements. Okay, look at the next point that is there. In the next point, they have explained it includes a statement that the auditor is independent of the entity in accordance with the the relevant ethical requirements relating to the audit, and has fulfilled the other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the requirements. The statement shall refer to, please underline, Code of Ethics issued by ICAI, which means कि बेसिस ऑफ ओपिनियन में अभी तक हमने ये सीखा कि 3 पॉइंट समझाने पड़ेंगे। पहला पॉइंट कि हमने ऑडिट करते वक्त सारे स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑन ऑडिटिंग फॉलो किए, उनको ये बताना है कि हमें हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी पता है और हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी क्या है ये हमने हमारे ऑडिट रिपोर्ट में भी समझाया है। थर्ड पॉइंट, वी वर एब्सोल्युटली इंडिपेंडेंट। Now, what is the meaning of the word independent over here? Independent means you have no interest in the organization. No interest means, if I understand this carefully, if I conduct the audit of my company, will I have interest? Yes, क्योंकि मेरी कंपनी है, मैं थर्ड पर्सन के व्यू पॉइंट से नहीं देख पाऊंगा, मेरा कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट होगा, क्योंकि मुझे एक तरफ ऐसा होगा कि मेरी कंपनी का कहीं भी गलत नहीं होना चाहिए, दूसरी तरफ मुझे ऐसा होगा कि मुझे अपनी ऑडिटर की ड्यूटी भी ऑनेस्टली निभानी है, which means there is conflict of interest. I will not be able to independently and honestly and ethically conduct the audit. On the other hand, if I conduct the audit of my brother's firm, again in that case there will be conflict of interest. I would not want my brother's firm to suffer due to any of my audit report points. Plus, I also want to be honest. Again, there is a conflict of interest. So the code of ethics of the institute tells you that you must follow all the standards, you must be independent where you conduct the audit, and you should have no interest in the organization. You will mention in the auditor's report that we have done the audit in accordance with all the ethical requirements given by ICAI. There was 100% independence and there is no conflict of interest. Are you understanding? Okay, next point. State whether the auditor believes that the audit evidence the auditor has obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for the auditor's opinion. So whatever auditor's opinion we have given, that auditor's opinion is 100% supported by sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. So whatever audit opinion we have given, that is supported by sufficient and appropriate audit evidence। मतलब हमने ढंग का audit evidence दिया है, और audit evidence है तभी हम ये opinion दे रहे हैं कि books of accounts comply with the requirements of the applicable financial reporting framework। Are you understanding? सबसे पहले हमने audit report शुरू किया टाइटल से, फिर आया एड्रेसी, उसके बाद आया ऑडिटर्स ओपिनियन, और उसके बाद आया basis of opinion. So we have done 4 points. First is title, addressee, auditor's opinion, and basis of opinion. Right. Come to the next one. So how many points are there in basis of opinion? 4 points. The first point says that the audit was conducted in accordance with the standards. Second, the auditor understands his responsibility and they have been mentioned in a particular section of the audit report. Third, the auditor is independent, has followed the ethical requirements. Ethical requirements we refer to the code of ethics given by ICAI. And fourth, whatever audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate, and based on that, it is absolutely clear to you. Come to the next point, which says going concern. Whether applicable, the auditor shall report in accordance with SA-570. So there is a standard SA-570 which I will be teaching to you. So this SA-570 explains to you that what is the auditor's responsibility in relation to going concern. That is SA-570. So whenever SA-570 comes into picture, it means it talks about going concern. So the auditor will explain about going concern in the financial statements. Okay, next, key audit matters. For audit of completed set of general purpose financial statements for listed entities, underline the word for listed entities. This is specifically for listed entities. So mark that, important. For listed entities. For audit of complete set of general purpose financial statements of listed entities, the auditor shall communicate key audit matters. Underline, communicate key audit matters in the auditor's report as per 701. So we will again be studying 701, which will tell you कौन से key audit matter ऐसे हैं जो audit report में आने चाहिए. You have to ensure कि वो सब इस paragraph में हमने properly record किए. What are the key audit matters when you conduct the audit? When the auditor is otherwise required by law or regulation or decides to communicate key audit matters in the audit report, the auditor shall do so in accordance with 701. मतलब जब भी auditor को key audit matters report करने हैं तो उसको कौन सा standard follow करना पड़ेगा? SA 701 is to be followed in that case. Right, are you understanding? Again, let's revise whatever points we have done till now. What are we studying? What are the form and content of the audit report? So SA-700 has some format of the audit report. The format begins with title, then you have addressee. After addressee, you have auditor's opinion, basis of opinion. Then you have going concern, and then you have key audit matters. Right, come to the next one. The next point is responsibilities of management. The next point speaks about मैनेजमेंट की क्या क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, वो भी हम ऑडिट रिपोर्ट में क्लियरली दे देते हैं. ध्यान देना, देखो क्या लिखा हुआ है. दिस सेक्शन ऑफ द ऑडिटर्स रिपोर्ट डिस्क्राइब्स मैनेजमेंट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज फॉर preparing the financial statements in accordance with the applicable FRF. तो सबसे पहले रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मैनेजमेंट की ये है that they will prepare financial statements as per the applicable FRF. So the first thing that the management's responsibility is to prepare the financial statements as per the applicable FRF. Second point, it will assess the entity's ability to continue as going concern. तो going concern check करने की जिम्मेदारी भी किसकी है? मैनेजमेंट की है. And whether the use of going concern basis of accounting is appropriate as well as disclosing, if applicable, matters relating to going concern. The explanation of management's responsibility for the assessment shall include a description of when to use going concern assumption is appropriate. So responsibility of management के सबसे पहले responsibility है that they have to prepare financial statements as per the applicable FRF. तो financial statements ढंग से बनाया या नहीं, ये management की जिम्मेदारी है. दूसरी जिम्मेदारी है, उनका ड्यूटी है ये चेक करना that the financial statements are prepared as per the going concern assumption. Come to the third point. When the financial statements are prepared in accordance with the fair presentation framework, the description of responsibilities of the financial statements in the auditor's report shall refer to preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements, or the preparation of financial statements that will give a true and fair view. So the auditor has to ensure that the books of accounts at all times are giving a true and fair view of the financial statements, which means कुछ भी गलत नहीं होना चाहिए, कुछ भी wrong नहीं होना चाहिए, and the books of accounts are giving an absolutely true and fair view of the financial statements. true over here means correct. Fair means unbiased, right? मैनेजमेंट ने ऐसा नहीं किया है कि अपना अच्छा अच्छा दिखाने के लिए लायबिलिटी कम दिखाइए, असेट्स अच्छी दिखाइए. Then that will be an unbiased audit opinion, unbiased financial statements. The management has to prepare fair financial statements. जो सच्चाई है वही financial statements में दिखनी चाहिए. Right, okay. Again, how many points are covered in management's responsibility? 3 points are covered in management's responsibility. The first point that is covered in management's responsibility talks about preparation of financial statements as per the applicable FRF. Second, give a true and fair view. Are you understanding? Fine, okay. Come to the next part. Okay, before I go to the next part of auditor's responsibility, I want to know from you. Have you understood whatever we have done till now? Right, please answer this question of mine. Have you clearly understood whatever we have done till now in audit? Because as I progress in audit, things will keep going one level ahead. And if you're really not clear with the base, you will have a lot of problems over here. So please reply back to me honestly that have you understood whatever we have done in audit till now? Please check that and let me know. Okay, there are two doubts that I have. One is I want to know why going concern is included in the auditor's report. Now, please understand, going concern is one of the most important concepts. For the investors, they want to understand कि हमने जिस कंपनी में पैसे डाले हैं ऐसा तो नहीं कल वो कंपनी बंद हो जाने वाली है और हमारे पैसे डूब जाने वाले हैं. So an auditor, an independent person is going and checking, and then he or she is reporting कि financial statements are following going concern. So it is very much important to be included in the auditor's report. Second, I have been telling you from day one that if the financial statements are not following the going concern assumption, that means your assets will be recorded at the net realizable value. However, if going concern assumption is being followed, then they will be recorded at WD. So this is the importance of going concern assumption, and it has to be a part of your audit report. Only then the investors will believe that the company in which we have invested is going to go on for a longer period of time, and it is not going to shut down in the near future. Right, Anjali, I hope that solves your doubt. Okay, then someone has said that please repeat key audit matters again. Okay, so what happens is key audit matters means there are some matters which are explained in SA-701 which the auditor has to clearly report in the financial statements. Why? Because they are matters of significance, they are matters of importance. So the auditor reports these matters in the financial statements. Now, when the auditor reports these matters, he has to take care of two things. One, he has timely reported the key audit matters which are mentioned in 701. Second, if when the auditor is required by law or regulation to decide whether to communicate, how to communicate the key audit matters, you have to follow 701, which means 701 ने कुछ key audit matters दिए और ये सारे key audit matters आपको audit report में ढंग से explain करने हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि वो की ऑडिट मैटर है और हर इन्वेस्टर को उस बात में इंटरेस्ट रहेगा. That is the reason why you will have to mention the key audit matters. Are you understanding? Okay. So for the rest, I believe since you're not telling me anything, which means I believe that you have understood whatever I have explained to you. Let's proceed to auditor's responsibility. तो अभी तक हमने क्या पढ़ा? Management's responsibility. अब हम क्या पढ़ रहे हैं? Auditor की responsibility. This section of the audit report shall state that the objectives of the auditor are to first objective of the auditor obtain reasonable assurance. You remember I explained to you reasonable assurance. You cannot have absolute assurance, so you will always have reasonable assurance. It is the duty of the auditor to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement. तो सबसे पहली ड्यूटी ऑडिटर की ये है that he has to obtain reasonable assurance that financial statements are free from material misstatements. That's the first responsibility of the auditor. Second responsibility is that he has to issue an auditor's report that includes audit opinion. So what does the auditor have to do? He has to give auditor's opinion in the financial state on the financial statements. Third, he has to state that reasonable level of assurance. देखो reasonable assurance क्या होता है उसका definition समझा है, इसलिए ध्यान देना please. He has to explain that reasonable assurance is nothing but high level of assurance. Reasonable assurance का meaning क्या है? High level of assurance. But it is certainly not a guarantee that the audit conducted in accordance with essays will always detect material misstatement when it exists, which means reasonable assurance का मतलब क्या है? High level of assurance. लेकिन कोई गारंटी नहीं है कि हर एक गलती आपको मिली जाएगी. हाँ, 99% सारी गलती ऑडिटर कवर कर लेता है, लेकिन कभी कभी ऐसा हो सकता है कि 1% of the mistakes are not covered by the auditor and they are missed out. That is why what kind of assurance are we giving? Reasonable assurance, which means high level of assurance. Are you understanding? Fine, okay. And state that misstatements can arise from fraud or error. So you can also have misstatements that can arise from fraud or error. Right, again, let's first revise these many points, then we proceed to the next one. The first point says that the auditor must obtain reasonable assurance. Right, the second one says that the auditor is supposed to express audit opinion. Third, he says that the auditor will obtain reasonable assurance, which means high level of assurance, which means that the auditor will obtain high level of assurance, but he cannot give a guarantee that every misstatement in the financial statements has been detected. Right. What's your next point? It says describe that they are considered material if individually or aggregate. They could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decision of the users taken on the basis of these financial statements. Which means fourth point में वो ऐसा बता रहा है कि हमारे लिए material item की definition क्या है. मटेरियल आइटम की डेफिनेशन ये है कि हर एक आइटम जो सामने वाले का डिसीजन मेकिंग इन्फ्लुएंस कर सकता है, वो पर्टिकुलर आइटम क्या कहलाएगा? मटेरियल आइटम कहलाएगा. Are you understanding? So it is a material item. What is a material item? One which can influence the decision of the user is known as a material item. Provide a definition or description of materiality in accordance with the applicable FRF. So fifth point, you will give a definition of materiality. Sixth point, the auditor's responsibility for the audit of financial statements section of the auditor's report shall further state that as a part of the audit as a part of an audit in accordance with essays, the auditor exercises very important professional judgment and will also maintain professional skepticism. Will also maintain professional skepticism, which means the auditor, while conducting the audit, will ensure that he makes proper judgments of the financial statements. Second, he will be careful, he will be alert that if there are any misstatements in the financial statements, then the auditor takes care of the same. Are you understanding? Okay, again, let's quickly revise whatever are the important points of the auditor's responsibility. First, the auditor must obtain reasonable assurance. Second, that the financial statements are free from material misstatements. Second point, the auditor has to give his audit opinion. Reasonable assurance means high level of assurance, but it is certainly not a guarantee. A material item means an item that can influence the decision of the user of financial statements. Then you will give the definition of materiality. And the last point, that the auditor will always exercise professional judgment and professional skepticism. Are you understanding? These are important 6 points of auditor's report. Are you getting it? Okay, come to the next one, other reporting responsibilities. If the auditor addresses other reporting responsibilities in the auditor's report on the financial statements, which are in addition to the auditor's responsibility under the SAs, these other reporting responsibilities should be addressed in the separate section of the audit report with the heading titled Report on Other Legal and Regulatory Requirements, which means if the auditor addresses other reporting responsibilities in the auditor's report, मतलब मान लो कि हमको कंपनी ऑडिट के हिसाब से कारों का रिपोर्ट भी देना है, हमको बैंक के हिसाब से लॉन्ग फॉर्म ऑडिट रिपोर्ट भी देना है. नाउ दीज आर सेपरेट रिपोर्टिंग रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज. आपकी जो ऊपर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है वो तो आपको करना ही है, उसके अलावा ओवर एंड दैट यू ऑल्सो हैव टू प्रिपेयर कारो. So when you prepare CARO, you give a reference of other reporting responsibilities in the financial statements, so that the user understands and comes to know कि ठीक है, हम इन्होंने CARO भी बनाया है और CARO अगर हमको देखना है तो रिपोर्ट के एंड में इन्होंने दिया हुआ है. Are you understanding? So other reporting responsibilities talks about the other responsibilities which law or regulation puts on the auditor regarding reporting. So other reporting responsibilities में क्या आता है? If the auditor has a responsibility towards reporting any other matter, then he has to report that in a separate section known as other reporting responsibilities. Right? See, I'm reading further for you. These other responsibilities shall be addressed in the separate section in the auditor's report with the heading titled Report on Other Legal and Regulatory Requirements, or otherwise as appropriate to the content of the section, unless these are reporting responsibilities address the same topics as those presented under the reporting responsibilities required by the essays, in which case the other reporting responsibilities may be presented in the same section as the related report elements required by the essay. So again, it reflects the same point. All you have to remember over here is कि अगर और कोई additional reporting responsibilities है जो हमको किसने दी है, कारो ने, जो हमको किसने दी है, लॉ या रेगुलेशन दी है, फॉर एग्जांपल कारो, फॉर एग्जांपल लॉन्ग फॉर्म ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, then these other reporting responsibilities have to be clearly mentioned in a separate paragraph in the audit report, and the heading or the title of that separate paragraph will be other reporting responsibilities. Are you understanding? Fine. Next point, very important, signature. The audit report shall be signed. The report shall be signed by the auditor, that is the engagement partner, in his personal name. Underline, report is always signed by the engagement partner or by any partner in his personal name. Important true or false question. The auditor will always sign the auditor's report in his personal name. When the firm is appointed as an auditor, the report shall be signed in the personal name of the auditor, underline, and in the name of the audit firm. So you will report in, of course, you will report or sign in the name of the auditor, but you will also sign in the name of your firm. So the report will be signed in the name of the auditor and in the name of the audit firm. Okay, look at the next point. The partner or proprietor signing the audit report, underline, very important, should also mention the membership number assigned by ICAI. They should also include the registration number of the firm where applicable, as allotted by ICAI in the audit report signed by them. Which means the auditor has to do what? First, he has to sign in his personal name. Then sometimes he also has to sign in his uh, sign in the personal name and also mention and sign in the firm's name. He has to also mention his firm registration number and his personal membership number in the audit report, right? So if you realize audit report में ऑडिटर की सारी इंफॉर्मेशन दी जाती है, उसका पर्सनल नाम, उसकी फर्म का नाम, उसका मेंबरशिप नंबर, उसका फर्म रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर. सो ऑल दीज आर वन ऑफ द थिंग्स दैट पुट द ऑडिटर अंडर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कि आपकी इतनी सारी इंफॉर्मेशन आपको देनी है और आपको साइन करना है. मतलब जो भी ऑडिट रिपोर्ट में लिखा है वो सही होना चाहिए, otherwise it will end you in a lot of problems, right? They also include the registration number of the firm where applicable as allotted by ICI in the audit report signed by them, right? Okay, come to the last one, the place of signature. The auditor's report shall name specific location. Underline the word specific location. The auditor's report shall specify the location, which is ordinarily underlined city where the audit report is signed. So you'll always mention the name of the city where the audit report is signed. So if the audit report is signed at Vadodara, you will mention Vadodara. If the audit report is signed at Surat, you will mention Surat. So the audit report has to specify the place where the audit report has been signed. Then you have the date of the auditor's report. The auditor's report shall be dated not earlier than the date on which the auditor has obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Underline this statement. Underline this entire statement. The audit report shall be dated no earlier than the date on which the auditor has obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence on which to base the auditor's opinion. Okay. Now let me see if someone of you can do it. Can someone explain this statement to me? On page number 154, first two sentences. Let me see if you can answer this, means you have understood SA-700 to a greater extent. अगर आपने इसका आंसर मुझे अच्छे से दे दिया, मतलब मैं समझ जाऊंगा आपको SA-700 काफी हद तक पूरा समझ में आ गया है. Can someone read and explain to me properly what is the meaning of the first two sentences? It is absolutely easy. If you apply your mind, remember whatever I have taught to you in SA-700. Okay, so Pushti says that it means that when the auditor has obtained all the information of audit evidence, then that date is to be mentioned. Okay, I agree that date is to be mentioned. But Pushti, I'm reading the statement again for you. I think you have not read it carefully. It says the auditor's report should be dated not earlier than the date on which the auditor has obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence. आप ऐसा बोल रहे हो कि जिस दिन को ऑडिट एविडेंस मिला है वो डेट मेंशन करनी चाहिए. सो माय फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन टू यू इज वो डेट कहाँ मेंशन करनी चाहिए? सेकेंड डेट, इन्होंने जो ऑडिटर्स रिपोर्ट की डेट की बात की है वो किसकी बात कर रहे हैं? So I think your answer is incomplete. You need to read this carefully and answer to me carefully. Read it once again, understand it. Okay, someone says the date in the audit report should not be before the date on which the auditor has obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence on which he can give opinion. Okay, so this answer is absolutely correct. Report is prepared on the basis of audit evidence. So once we obtain audit evidence, then we will prepare the report. Therefore, the report is prepared afterwards. Absolutely correct. What you have said is absolutely perfect. So, first you obtain audit evidence. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि मैंने रिपोर्ट बना दिया 10th मई को और ऑडिट एविडेंस ऑब्टेन किया 20th मई को. ये कैसे हो सकता है? पहले आप ऑडिट एविडेंस ऑब्टेन करते हो, वो ऑडिट एविडेंस के बेसिस पे आप ऑडिट रिपोर्ट बनाते हो. पहले ऑडिट रिपोर्ट बनेगा, बाद में ऑडिट एविडेंस ऑब्टेन होगा, ऐसा पॉसिबल ही नहीं है. First, you obtain the audit evidence, and based on that audit evidence, you will prepare your audit report. Are you understanding? Right. So whatever you all have said is absolutely correct. Very good. Chalo, आगे. On which to base the auditor's opinion on the financial statements, including evidence that all the financial statements that comprise the all the statements that comprise financial statements, including related notes, have been prepared. So all your notes to accounts, all your financial statements have been prepared, and those with the recognized authority have asserted that they have taken responsibility for the financial statements. So this paragraph means कि ऑडिटर की डेट में हमको auditor's date, audit report's date should not be earlier than the date on which the audit evidence has obtained, and the auditor has to ensure two things. First, that all the statements have been properly prepared, means all the financial statements items have been prepared, and second, that the board of directors, that means the authority, has taken responsibility regarding those financial statements. Now please understand, it is important for the management to take responsibility of financial statements. It is very important for the management to take the responsibility of the financial statements. Otherwise, what will happen? Whenever whenever you raise a query to the management, they will tell you, नहीं नहीं हमको तो ये पता ही नहीं है, हमने तो financial statements approve ही नहीं किए, ये तो बात मुझे पता ही नहीं है. But once management takes responsibility, then you can easily hold them responsible. So you can tell them कि आपने financial statements देख लिए हैं, आपने financial statements की responsibility ली है, मतलब जो भी इसमें लिखा है वो आपको clearly पता है. इसका मतलब ये है कि अब जब भी हम आपको डाउट पूछेंगे financial statements का, वो सारे डाउट्स आप हमारे रिजॉल्व कर दोगे. Are you understanding? Fine, okay. That brings you to the end of SA 700. Right, that brings you to the end of 700. Let's quickly look at what example illustrations we have two illustrations which tell you how what kind of audit report is to be prepared. Now mainly the second illustration we have already seen, that how do you mention the name of the entity, the fact that the books of accounts have been audited, all these points we have already covered. So illustration number 2, that is there, the independent auditors report, that we have already covered. However, still we will quickly read through the entire illustration so that if you have any query, if you have any doubt, we can solve that. Come to illustration 1. Let's begin with that. देखो क्या दिया हुआ है, टाइटल दिया हुआ है, Auditors report on financial statements of a listed entity. So they have given you financial statements of a listed entity. Come to the next one. Prepared in accordance with the fair presentation framework. So prepared in accordance with the fair presentation framework, for the purposes of this illustrative auditor's report, the following circumstances are assumed. Audit of complete set of financial statements of listed company registered under the Companies Act. देखो, we have identified what is your applicable financial reporting framework. Since we have identified, we are clear कि इनको कौन सा act applicable है, Companies Act 2013 applicable है. So it says auditor of complete set of financial statements of a listed company using a fair presentation framework. The audit is not a group audit, that is SA 600 does not apply. This is an independent audit of one organization. So SA 600 talks about audit of head office plus branch offices, but here we are talking only about the head office. तो वो भी clearly मैंने explain कर दिया. Second, the financial statements are prepared by the management of the entity in accordance with the accounting standards prescribed under section 133. So the books of accounts are prepared by following all the accounting standards. then the financial statements, the terms of audit engagement reflect the description of management's responsibility for the financial statements in 210. So whenever you have 210, you have auditor's responsibility and management's responsibility. वो भी clearly audit report में आपने specify किए. The auditor has concluded an unmodified opinion as appropriate based on the audit evidence obtained. So, whatever audit evidence you have obtained, you have said that the financial statements are absolutely correct and there is no mistake in the financial statements. Right, look at the next one. The relevant ethical requirements that apply to the audit comprise of code of ethics issued by ICAI along with the other relevant ethical requirements relating to audit, and the auditor refers to the both. So auditor has taken care of relevant ethical requirements including the code of ethics that are issued by ICAI and whatever rules are laid down by ICAI that the auditor has followed. Based on the audit evidence obtained, the auditor has concluded that a material uncertainty does not exist. Underline the word does not exist. So in the report they have said कि हमने सारा audit evidence इकट्ठा कर लिया है और audit evidence देख के हमको ऐसा लगता है कि कोई भी गलती financial statements में नहीं है. That may cast a significant doubt on the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. तो ऐसी कोई problem नहीं है जिससे हमारा going concern affect ना हो. Key audit matters have been communicated in accordance with SA-701. So we have followed SA-701 and all the key audit matters have been covered in that. Those responsible for oversight of financial statements differ from those responsible for preparation of the financial statements. So the ones who are responsible for oversight of financial statements differ from those who are responsible for preparation. Important point. One who prepares and one who checks should be different. Only then there will be independence. If the person who prepares and the person who checks is the same, then how will you have independence? You cannot have independence in that case. And in addition to audit of financial statements, the auditor has other reporting responsibilities also. So we have already studied in a paragraph of other reporting responsibilities where the auditor will specify all the other reporting responsibilities. For example, अगर मुझे कारों में रिपोर्ट करना है तो मैं वहाँ पे लिख दूंगा कि हमारी कंपनी को एप्लीकेबल एफआरएफ की हिसाब से कारो 2016 भी फॉलो करना पड़ता है. तो कारों का रिपोर्ट हमने पीछे अटैच कर दिया. Are you understanding? So these are all your various exam. This is a example of how an audit report has been presented. Please remember, from page number 154 you need not learn or remember anything. It is just a point that tells you how we have covered the various points of an audit. Sorry. Sorry. How we have covered the various points of an audit report. So illustration 1, right besides that, read only. No need to learn all this. Just read it once to understand it. The points that we have studied previously are important. Okay, come to the second illustration, which half we have already seen. Half let's quickly have a look at it once. Okay, I have one doubt which says, is it not necessary that the management knows about the rules of accounts? Now I cannot say that every time management knows the rules of the account. So say for example, the board of directors of the company are science graduated. Will they know commerce? Of course not. The person who has studied science throughout his life, will not know commerce. So what happens is in that case, they have kept chartered accountants who will maintain the books of accounts, who are experts in maintaining books of accounts. So I cannot commit that okay, every time the management is aware of the rules of accounts. Sometimes the management is not aware. Why? Because commerce is not their field. So in that case, they will not be aware of it. The full form of CARO is Company Auditors Report Order. Right? You have that in your syllabus. Company Auditors Report Order is CARO 2016. So CARO is also one of the additional reporting requirements. Fine. Quickly come to page 155. Let's just read through how an audit report has been prepared. All the points that we have covered are covered over here. Before we go to page number 155, let's quickly revise all the points. First, we did title, then we did addressee, Auditor's opinion, basis of opinion. Then you have uh, going concern, key audit matters, or management's responsibility, auditor's responsibility, other reporting responsibilities. Then you have signature, place, and date. Are you understanding? These are all the points that are there. Now let's quickly see how it is presented in an auditor's report. So it is given over here, independent auditor's report to the members of ABC Company Limited. Report on audit of standalone financial statements. It says we have audited the standalone financial statements of ABC Limited, which comprise of balance sheet and profit and loss and statement of cash flows for the year ended and the notes into the financial statements, including summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. uh, then you have, in our opinion and to the best of our information and according to the explanation given to us. Just look at the language that they are using. They say, as per our opinion एंड टू द बेस्ट ऑफ द इंफॉर्मेशन, हमको जितनी भी सही इंफॉर्मेशन दी गई, हमको जितना भी एक्सप्लेनेशन दिया गया, उससे हमको ऐसा लगता है that the aforesaid standalone financial statements will give the information required by the act in the manner so required and to give a true and fair view in conformity with the accounting principles generally accepted in India of the state of affairs of the company and of the profit and loss account. तो हम ऐसा बोलते हैं कि जितना information हमको मिला, as per the information and as per the explanations provided to us, the books of accounts are giving a true and fair view. Right, after that you have the next point, which is basis of opinion. We conduct our audit in accordance with the standards on auditing. तो वो पहला point लिखा हुआ है. Right, if you can understand, that is the first point that is written, that we conduct the audit as per the standards on auditing specified under section 143(10) of the Companies Act 2013. Next point पे ध्यान देना. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibility. मतलब हमारी क्या क्या responsibility है वो हमने आगे audit report में समझाया है. कौन से section में? Auditor's responsibility के section में. For the audit of financial statement section in our report. We are independent of the company. Remember, we did this point also. There is no conflict of interest and we are independent of the company in accordance with the code of ethics issued by ICAI, along with the ethical requirements that are relevant to our audit of financial statements under the provisions of the Companies Act and the rules thereunder. And we have fulfilled our ethical requirements in accordance with the requirements of the code of ethics. We believe that audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide the basis of opinion. तो हमको confidence है कि जो भी audit evidence हमने obtain किया है वो sufficient है क्या करने के लिए? Audit opinion देने के लिए. Right, come to the next one, which is key audit matters. It says key audit matters are those that in our professional judgment were of most significance in our audit of financial statements in the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of our audit of financial statements as a whole and in forming our opinion thereon. And we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. Management's responsibility for financial statements. Okay, now all these points are simple. I'm quickly reading through. Pay attention. If you have any doubt, please ask me immediately. It says management's responsibility for standalone financial statements. The company's board of directors is responsible for matters stated in 134(5) of the Companies Act with respect to preparation of standalone financial statements that give a true and fair view of the financial position and financial performance and cash flows of the company in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in India, including accounting standards specified under Section 133 of the Act. This responsibility also includes maintenance of adequate accounting records in accordance with the provisions of the Act for safeguarding of the assets of the company and for preventing and detecting frauds and other irregularities, selection and application of accounting of appropriate implementation and maintenance of accounting policy, making judgments and estimates that are reasonable, prudent, and designing implementation and maintenance of internal financial controls. All these points we already studied कि ये सब मैनेजमेंट की जिम्मेदारी है. बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स बनाना, इंटरनल कंट्रोल बनाना, to ensure that the financial statements give a true and fair view. They are not covered by any kind of misstatement, either due to fraud or error. All these are examples of auditor or of management's responsibility. Relevant to preparation and presentation of financial statements that give a true and fair view and are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing the matters related to going concern, and using the going concern of accounting unless management intends to liquidate or cease its operations or has no realistic alternative but to do so. So they have also explained to you when you will your firm be said that it is not following the going concern assumption. राइट, कम टू द नेक्स्ट वन, ऑडिटर्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. अब वो बता रहे हैं कि ऑडिटर की क्या क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. लुक एट दैट पॉइंट. It says our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance, ये भी हमने पढ़ लिया, is nothing but high level of assurance, but it is not a guarantee that the audit conducted as per the essays will always detect a misstatement when it exists. Misstatement can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users on the basis of financial statements. Para 40B of this essay explains that the shaded material below can be located in appendix to the auditor's report. Para 40C explains that law or regulation applicable to auditing standards expressly permit reference can be made to the website of the appropriate authority that contains the description of auditor's responsibility, rather than including this material in the auditor's report, provided that the description of the website address is not inconsistent with the description of the auditor's responsibility. So down below is listed whatever auditor's responsibility are there. As part of the audit in accordance with SA, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. ये भी हमने last point पढ़ा था आगे, that the auditor will explain that we maintain professional judgment and we will take care of professional skepticism. We also identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error. We design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide the basis for our opinion. So the auditor's responsibility is to identify and assess the risk of material misstatement. कहाँ कहाँ गलती हो सकती है और कहाँ कहाँ गलती है वो चेक करना हमारा काम है. And to obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for opinion. The risk is not detecting a material misstatement result. Okay, very important point, underline this, and you will explain this point again to me, so please read it carefully. I'm reading the sentence for you. You will mark it important and you will explain to me the meaning of this. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than the one resulting from error, which it means if there is a risk because of fraud, it is more important than risk due to error. They have explained this statement or they have written this statement that risk because of fraud is more than risk because of error. Can someone explain this to me? Please apply your mind. This is not at all difficult. Just apply your mind and tell me. Risk because of fraud, they say, is more than the risk that can happen because of error. Can you explain to me why? यहाँ पे ऐसा दिया हुआ है कि फ्रॉड की वजह से जो गलती होती है वो ज्यादा रिस्की होती है, एरर की वजह से जो गलती होती है वो कम रिस्की होती है। मेरा आपसे क्वेश्चन है, इसका मतलब क्या है, ऐसा क्यों लिखा हुआ है? Think and tell me properly. The risk because of fraud is more than the risk because of error. I want to understand this statement from you. It says because fraud is intentional and error is unintentional. So the person doing fraud and going undetected may do more fraud, leading to greater risk. Yes, to an extent, whatever you are saying is absolutely correct. Because what happens is fraud involves hiding of information. राइट, यू विल अग्री विथ मी कि फ्रॉड में क्या होता है, हम उस फ्रॉड को छुपाने की कोशिश करते हैं, क्योंकि हम डेलिबरेटली जानबूझ के उसको छुपाने की कोशिश करते हैं, इट बिकम्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू डिटेक्ट, और आपको कोई आइडिया ही नहीं होगा कि ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है, विच मीन्स इफ यू मिस आउट एनी काइंड ऑफ मिस्टेक ड्यू टू अ फ्रॉड, it becomes more risky from you than it would have been if it arises from an error. Right, okay, very good, that answer was perfectly fine. It says the risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than the one resulting from error, as fraud may include collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentation, or the override of internal control. Second point, obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate to the circumstances. Under Section 143(3)(1) of the Companies Act, we are also responsible for expressing an opinion whether the company has adequate IFC. तो हमारी ये भी responsibility है that if we have proper internal financial controls, if the internal financial controls are proper, then you can stop any kind of fraud or error. Then that point also becomes very important. Next, evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used. So we will have a look at what are the accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and the related disclosures. Conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of going concern basis of accounting, and based on the audit evidence obtained whether a material uncertainty exists relating to event and conditions that may cast a significant doubt on the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw the attention of our auditor's report to the related disclosures in the financial statements. तो अगर हमको लगता है कि going concern affect हो रहा है, then we need to disclose that separately. If such disclosures are inadequate to modify our opinion, our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of the auditor's report. Future events or conditions may cause the company to cease to continue as a going concern. Evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the financial statements, including the disclosures and whether the financial statements represent the underlying transactions events in the manner that achieve fair presentation. So this is also one of the auditor's responsibility. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of audit and significant audit findings. तो आपको मैनेजमेंट को टाइमली रिप्लाई करना है, हम कौन से दिन पे क्या चेक करेंगे, मतलब हमारा ऑडिट का प्लान और क्या कहाँ से हमको कौन सी क्वेरी मिली है, दैट यू मस्ट डिस्कस विद द मैनेजमेंट. We also provide those charged with governance with a statement that we have complied with the relevant ethical requirements regarding independence, and to communicate with them all the relationships. Then you have other matters. We did not audit the financial statements of dash number of branches, included in the standalone financial statements of the company, whose financial statements reflect total assets of this much and total revenue of this much for the year ended as on that date, as considered in the standalone financial statements or information of these branches have been audited by the branch auditors, whose reports have been furnished to us, and our opinion insofar as they relate to amounts and disclosures included in respect of the branches is based on the report of such branch auditors. So this is the other matters paragraph that you have to explain. Next, in our opinion, as per section 143.3, we report upon whether we have sought and obtained all the information and explanation which to the best of our knowledge and belief is necessary for the audit. In our opinion, proper books of accounts as required by law have been kept by the company as so far as it appears from the examination of books. तो अभी तो books देख के लग रहा है that the financial statements have been properly prepared. The balance sheet, P&L, cash flow statement dealt with by this report are in agreement with the books of accounts. Okay. Next you have, in our opinion, the aforesaid standalone financial statements comply with the AS. तो ये भी एक point पीछे दिया हुआ था कि you have to ensure that the books of accounts are following the accounting standards on the basis of the written representation obtained from the director as on 31st March, taken on record the board of directors. None of the directors is disqualified as on 31st March. So you'll have to inform this also कि सारे directors properly appointed है और कोई भी disqualified नहीं है. With respect to adequacy of IFC over the financial reporting of the company and the operating effectiveness of such controls. With respect to the other matters to be included in the auditor's report in accordance with the Rule 11 of the companies, in our opinion and to the best of our information and according to the explanation given to us, the company has disclosed the impact of pending litigations on its financial position in the financial statements. Uh, Then you have the company has made provision as required under the applicable law or accounting standards for foreseeable material losses, if any, on long-term contracts, including derivative contracts. Report number 20 of the financial statements. There has been a delay in transferring amounts required to be transferred, but the investor education and protection fund by the company. uh, this means that you are also mentioning that what are the various aspects that the auditor is covering in his or her responsibility. Then you have, look at that at the right hand side bottom corner, you have the firm's name, you have the firm registration number, you have the place of signature, you have the date of signature, then you have the signature, name of the member signing the report, his designation, and the membership number. Are you understanding? Now, please understand one thing. There are some standards in audit which you will find that they are completely theory. They are completely theory. There is no practical aspect. For example, SA-700. अब वो लोग आपको एक ऑडिट रिपोर्ट का फॉर्मेट समझा रहे हैं. अब आपको फॉर्मेट समझना पड़ेगा, राइट? क्योंकि फॉर्मेट किस हिसाब से रिपोर्ट बनता है. So you may find at least three or four, not more than four. 3 or 4 standards are pure theory. So you will get a little bit, you will start getting restless. But just stay with me. Just try and understand whatever I'm trying to explain, and it will be very easy for you. Unlike 505, which was very interactive and very easy. So majority of the standards are like 505, where you will be able to understand everything. However, there are some standards like 700 which are absolutely pure theory. But I'll try to make it as interesting as possible for you. Right, with this we come to the end of SA-700. Now please reply to me. I've been asking you since long, but I'm not having proper replies. Please reply to me. Have you understood SA-700 properly? Please answer. Have you understood SA-700 properly? Only if you answer, I'll come to know whether you have understood it or not. So please look at the entire standard if you want for a minute and tell me, have you understood this entire standard properly? This standard tells you about what is the objective of the standard, what is the auditor's responsibility in the standard. It tells you कि अपना opinion देने से पहले, yes, of course, I will lower down my speed. So ये standard आपको ये भी बताता है कि अपना opinion देने से पहले auditor को 9 things that the auditor has to take care of. Then it also tells you what are the various points that are part of the auditor's report. So there are so it begins with title, then you have addressee, then you have auditor's opinion, then you have basis of opinion, then you have uh, going concern, then you have key audit matters, then you have auditor's responsibility, management's responsibility, then you have other reporting responsibilities, then you have date, place, and signature. So these are all the various contents of an audit report. So please remember, SA 700 covers What does SA-700 cover? SA-700 covers, सबसे पहले तो it covers the form and content of audit report, and then SA-700 also covers what will happen if you give unmodified opinion. What is the meaning of unmodified opinion? Unmodified opinion means you believe that the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, which means the financial statements are prepared as per the applicable financial reporting framework. If you can say confidently that the books of accounts are prepared as per the applicable financial reporting framework, which means that you are giving an unmodified auditor's opinion. Are you understanding? Okay, that brings you to the end of SA-700. It is right now 5:12. So take a 10 minutes break. I'll see you back at 5:22. After the 10 minutes break, we will begin with SA-705. Now, 705 is an interesting standard. It is not pure theory. It has a lot of practical approach. So I'm sure you will enjoy understanding the entire 705. So let's come back on time in 10 minutes, take a 10 minutes break, and then we continue with the standard. Right, I'll see you after 10 minutes now.